What if the biggest threats to your life weren't accidents or rare diseases, but something far more ordinary? Something you do every single day without thinking. Right now, the leading causes of death around the world are not mysterious, they are predictable. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes. And what if I told you that many of these aren't just treatable, but largely preventable? This is the idea behind How Not to Die by Michael Greger, a book that challenges one of the most dangerous assumptions we live with, that declining health is just a normal part of life. It isn't. And by the end of this video, you may start seeing your daily habits in a completely different way. This journey begins with a moment that didn't make sense. Dr. Greger's grandmother was sent home to die. She had advanced heart disease, could barely move, and had exhausted all medical options. There was nothing left to try, at least that's what conventional medicine believed. But instead of accepting that outcome, she entered a lifestyle program focused on diet and simple daily changes. What happened next surprised everyone. She didn't just stabilize, she improved. She got out of her wheelchair, she started walking again, and she lived for many more years. That experience raised a question that wouldn't leave Greger alone. If something as simple as food could reverse a life-threatening condition, why wasn't this common knowledge? Why wasn't it the first line of treatment instead of the last resort? Instead of accepting what he was taught, he started digging. He went through study after study, clinical trials, population data, thousands of pages of research, not looking for opinions, but for patterns. And the deeper he went, the clearer one thing became. The connection between diet and disease was far stronger than most people realize. Today's diet is unlike anything humans evolved to eat. Highly processed foods, loaded with sugar, salt, and fat are everywhere. They're convenient, addictive, and engineered to keep you coming back for more. But beneath that convenience is a hidden cost. These foods don't just add calories, they disrupt the body's natural balance. Over time, they contribute to inflammation, hormonal imbalance, and metabolic dysfunction. And because the effects are slow, most people never connect the cause to the outcome. Chronic disease doesn't happen overnight. It builds quietly, often without symptoms, for years or even decades. A poor meal doesn't cause immediate damage you can feel. But repeated daily, those choices begin to stack. It's like adding small amounts of pressure to a system that was never designed to handle it. Eventually, something gives. And when it does, it feels sudden. But in reality, it was years in the making. Inside your body, your arteries are meant to be flexible and clear, allowing blood to flow freely. But certain dietary patterns can change that. Cholesterol and saturated fat can contribute to plaque buildup, narrowing these pathways. Over time, this reduces oxygen supply to vital organs. The scary part is that you don't feel this happening. There's no warning sign until the damage becomes critical. And by then, it often shows up as a heart attack or stroke. It's no surprise people feel confused. Nutrition advice seems to change constantly. One day, something is labeled as superfood. The next day, it's considered harmful. This creates a kind of fatigue. People stop trying to understand and default to convenience. But the problem isn't that nutrition is unknowable. It's that short-term studies and sensational headlines dominate the conversation. When you look at long-term, large-scale evidence, consistent patterns start to emerge. The hardest part of this conversation isn't the science, it's the implication. It suggests that some of the foods people enjoy most may be contributing to their long-term health problems. Not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly. And once you become aware of that connection, it creates a tension. Do you continue as before, or do you start making changes? That decision is where everything begins. Heart disease is often seen as inevitable, especially with age. But Greger presents evidence that challenges that belief. In populations that consume predominantly plant-based diets, heart disease rates are dramatically lower. Even more surprising, when people switch to these diets, improvements can happen relatively quickly. Blood vessels become more flexible, circulation improves, and symptoms can begin to reverse. Cancer doesn't appear out of nowhere. It develops in an environment shaped by lifestyle factors, including diet. Certain foods promote inflammation and oxidative stress, creating conditions where abnormal cells can grow. Others provide protective compounds that help the body repair damage and regulate cell growth. This doesn't mean diet is the only factor, but it is a powerful one. In type 2 diabetes, the problem isn't just sugar, it's how the body responds to it. Cells become resistant to insulin, making it harder for glucose to enter and be used for energy. High-fat diets can contribute to this resistance by interfering with cellular function. On the other hand, diets rich in whole plant foods can improve insulin sensitivity, allowing the system to function more effectively. High blood pressure is often called the silent killer because it shows no obvious symptoms until serious damage occurs. Diet plays a major role here. Excess sodium, lack of potassium, and low intake of whole foods all contribute. By shifting that balance, the body can regulate pressure more naturally, reducing strain on the heart and blood vessels. Brain health is something most people don't think about until problems appear, but the foundation is built much earlier. Diets rich in antioxidants help protect brain cells from damage caused by free radicals. Over time, this protection can reduce the risk of cognitive decline. What you eat today becomes the building block for how your brain functions years from now. Not all calories affect the body the same way. Highly processed foods are designed to bypass natural satiety signals, making it easy to overeat. They digest quickly, spike blood sugar, and leave you hungry again soon after. Whole foods, in contrast, are more filling, slower to digest, and naturally regulate appetite. This changes the entire dynamic of weight management. Whole plant foods provide a combination of nutrients that work together: fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. These compounds support the body's natural repair systems, reduce inflammation, and improve overall function. It's not about a single superfood. It's about a pattern of eating that consistently supports health. One of the most empowering ideas in this book is that health is not entirely out of your hands. While genetics and environment matter, daily choices play a huge role. That doesn't mean you need to be perfect. It means small, consistent improvements can lead to meaningful change over time. The Daily Dozen turns theory into action. Instead of vague advice, it gives you a clear checklist of foods to include each day: beans for protein and fiber, berries for antioxidants, greens for essential nutrients. It simplifies decision-making and removes guesswork. The biggest mistake people make is trying to change everything at once. That rarely lasts. Sustainable change comes from simplicity: basic meals, repeatable habits, and realistic expectations. The goal isn't to impress, it's to maintain. Food is deeply tied to culture, family, and social life. Changing your diet can feel isolating at times, but awareness allows you to make intentional choices without completely disconnecting from your environment. It's about balance, not extremes. Everyone slips. The difference between success and failure isn't perfection, it's what happens after a setback. Do you stop or do you continue? Health is built through repetition, not isolated decisions. The benefits of better eating habits build slowly but powerfully. Increased energy, improved mood, better sleep, reduced risk of disease. These changes may not be immediate, but they are cumulative. Avoiding disease is only part of the goal. The real objective is quality of life, feeling strong, capable, and mentally clear, being able to live independently and fully for as long as possible. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight, but you do need to recognize that every meal is an opportunity, a small decision that over time shapes your future. The power is in repetition. If this made you pause and think about your own habits, that's a good thing. Awareness is where change begins, but knowledge alone isn't enough. You have to act on it. If you found this valuable, like the video, share your biggest takeaway in the comments, and subscribe for more deep, practical book breakdowns. The goal isn't just to learn, it's to live better.